The most dangerous thing you can do in life is make yourself too easy to reach. The truth is, anything that's always available is rarely valued. Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you told someone, "I'm not available"? Not because you were busy, but because your purpose deserved your protection. Let me make it plain. The more accessible you are, the more distracted you become. 7 main key points. Presence is power. Don't waste it. Let me tell you something real. Where you are matters just as much as who you are. Your presence, your physical and mental space, carries energy, influence, and weight. When you walk into a room, something should shift. But here's the problem. When you show up everywhere all the time for everyone, your presence loses its potency. You become unpredictable, replaceable. That's not how you were designed. Look around at the people you admire, the CEOs, the creatives, the leaders, the visionaries. Are they showing up to every event, responding to every message, attending every lunch, giving access to anyone who asks? No! They are strategic with their presence because they understand something most people miss. Your presence is your power. And power, when wasted, is quickly forgotten. Think about this. A celebrity doesn't walk through every mall in town. A high-level executive doesn't sit in every meeting. The president of a nation doesn't answer every phone call. Why? Because constant availability destroys mystique. It dilutes significance. It weakens your presence. There's a difference between being visible and being valuable. Just because you can be somewhere doesn't mean you should be there. Just because someone invites you doesn't mean you should say yes. Just because someone wants your time doesn't mean they've earned it. Let me give you a practical example. Imagine you have a friend who always shows up. Every time you call, they pick up. Every time you need something, they're there. At first, you're grateful, but over time, without even realizing it, you start expecting them to be available, and eventually, you stop valuing them. Why? Because what is always present becomes background noise. You've become like wallpaper in someone's life, always there, rarely noticed. But now think about another person, someone who is rarely around, but every time they show up, they bring wisdom, energy, clarity. You listen when they speak, you lean in, you take notes. That's presence, that's power. That's the effect of protecting your availability. You were not created to be everyone's go-to. You were created to be impactful. But impact doesn't come from being everywhere. It comes from showing up at the right place, at the right time, with the right intention. It's not about quantity, it's about quality. Every yes you give to someone who hasn't earned your presence is a no to something more meaningful. You said yes to a phone call, but you said no to your rest. You said yes to a last-minute meetup, but you said no to your workout, your planning time, your mental space. You said yes to being available, but no to being effective. And that's the tragedy of it all. We trade presence for approval. We say yes to be liked. We show up because we're afraid of disappointing people. But the truth is, every time you're afraid to say no, you're disrespecting your purpose. Your future is not built on other people's expectations. It's built on your intentional decisions. Presence is power. If you want people to respect you, you must first respect your presence. That means not always showing up just because you're invited. It means taking time away to think, to grow, to reset, so that when you do show up, you're not running on fumes, you're carrying fire. Let me make it plain, even electricity, power is not just the flow, it's the control of the flow. A light bulb doesn't shine unless it receives power in the right measure. Too much, it explodes. Too little, it flickers. In the same way, your presence has to be regulated if you want to shine consistently. You weren't born to be noise in the background. You were born to be a voice that matters. But to be heard, you have to stop being everywhere. You have to stop attending every conversation, scrolling through every social feed, giving energy to every notification. Some of you need to hear this. Your destiny is being delayed because your presence is being mismanaged. You're in places you've outgrown. You're in circles that don't challenge you. You're showing up in rooms that don't deserve your wisdom. And that's not humility. That's waste. Think about a luxury car. It doesn't park just anywhere. It doesn't race just anyone. It's maintained, it's covered, it's polished because its presence alone speaks of excellence. You were not made to blend in. You were made to carry value. But value must be preserved. Even in the wilderness, lions don't hunt 24/7. They spend most of their time resting, observing, choosing their moment, because they understand something the prey doesn't. The greatest power is not in the chase. It's in the choice to move with purpose. So I'll ask you, where is your presence right now? Where are you placing your energy? Who gets your face, your time, your thoughts, your brilliance? Because until you realize that your presence is power, you'll keep giving it away like it's nothing. And people will treat you like you're nothing, not because you are, but because you taught them you were. Your life is a container. Don't let leaks drain it. Your life is a container. Don't let leaks drain it. You are not limitless. You are not infinite in energy. You are not designed to pour into everyone and everything and expect to stay full. Your life, your energy, your time, your focus, these are finite resources. Like a container, you hold a certain capacity. And when that capacity is drained, so are you. Now listen carefully. You're not tired because you're doing too much. You're tired because you're leaking. You're not exhausted because you're carrying your dream. You're exhausted because you're carrying distractions that are poking holes in your container. Every unnecessary conversation, every toxic relationship, every commitment you agreed to just to avoid disappointing someone, those are leaks. And leaks don't ask for permission, they just drain. Imagine walking around with a bottle of water, the cap off, and small holes at the bottom. You're sipping when you're thirsty, but you're confused because it's running out faster than it should. That's what many people are doing with their life. They're leaking, not living. Let's go deeper. Think about your phone. You charge it at night, full battery. You wake up, unplug it, and go about your day. But by midday, it's already at 40%. You're confused. You haven't even used it that much. Then you open your settings, and you realize background apps have been running all day. Wi-Fi searching, notifications, news apps, GPS tracking, even though you're not moving. Your battery is being drained, not by what you're doing, but by what you're not managing. Your life works the same way. The leaks are silent, they're not loud. It's not always the major things that drain you. Sometimes it's the little yes you give when you meant no. It's the 5 minutes scrolling through negativity that turns into 30. It's the unnecessary arguments, the drama, the people who call you only to vent, never to build. These things are background apps of the soul, draining power without adding value. You are a container, and containers are designed to be filled, used, and protected. The problem with most people is they think they can give endlessly without ever checking their levels. You're pouring into everyone, but who's pouring into you? You're giving your best energy to the loudest voices, not the most valuable ones. And then at the end of the day, you're too empty to focus on what matters most, your vision, your healing, your growth, your purpose. Let me make it plain. If you had 100 in your wallet, would you hand 20 out to every stranger who smiled at you? Would you let someone you barely know reach in and take a 50 because they needed it? No, you wouldn't. You'd protect that money. You'd guard it. You'd spend it wisely. But that's your money. What about your energy? You guard your money more than you guard your soul. That's why you're drained. You're giving mental currency to things that don't pay back. And when something doesn't give a return, it's not an investment, it's a leak. Some of you are in friendships that are leaks. People who always take, but never pour back. Every time you talk to them, you feel lighter, not because they lifted your burdens, but because they added weight you now carry. You were fine before the call, but now your mood is off. That's a leak. Some of you are spending hours online, scrolling through highlight reels, comparing your process to someone else's result. You were confident about your journey until you saw their post. Now you're second-guessing yourself. That's a leak. Even your thoughts can leak. Negative self-talk, overthinking, guilt from the past, anxiety about the future. These are inner conversations that create inner cracks. You can't be powerful externally if you're leaking internally. Your time is a container. Your peace is a container. Your creativity, your focus, your clarity, they are all containers. And if you don't become the gatekeeper of what enters and exits, you will find yourself empty, not because you lacked, but because you leaked. People will keep poking holes in your life as long as you allow it. They'll keep calling, keep asking, keep pulling, and guess what? They don't feel bad because people don't measure what they take. They measure what you allow. And if you keep allowing access with no accountability, you're not a container anymore. You're a puddle. Let me say this with urgency. Not everything deserves a response. Not everyone deserves a reply. Not every situation deserves your presence. You don't have to explain your boundaries. You don't have to apologize for saying, I need time for me. You don't owe the world access to your container. Protect your space. Protect your soul. There's a reason elite athletes don't do what everyone else does. They sleep differently. Sleep differently. Why? Because they understand that energy is everything. If they leak, they lose. Your dream, your assignment, your vision, they demand a container without cracks. Even ships don't sink because of the water around them. They sink because water gets in. The outside pressure doesn't destroy a vessel. It's the leaks inside that do. The same is true for your life. Access should be earned, not assumed. One of the greatest mistakes people make in life is allowing access to themselves without requiring value in return. We've been trained to think that being nice means being open. That being humble means being available. That being good means saying yes every time someone knocks. But let me shake you awake with this truth. If you let people enter your life too easily, they will leave it even quicker. And with parts of you they never deserved. You do not owe everyone access. You do not owe everyone your energy, your wisdom, your time, your mind. You are not a public park where anyone can walk in, sit down, and stay as long as they like. You are a fortress. You are a kingdom. You are sacred ground. But if you keep opening the gate without asking who's coming in, you'll eventually find your treasure missing, and the thief will smile on their way out. Think about this, even in your own house. There are levels of access. Not everyone who visits your home is allowed into your bedroom. Some people only get to see the living room. Others, the porch. A few, maybe the kitchen. But your bedroom, that's your resting place, your sacred space. Why? Because it's personal. Because not everyone deserves to see you without your armor. Then why is it that in your life, your emotional house, you let strangers walk straight into your soul without any boundaries? Let's bring it closer. Imagine your phone. You have a password, a locked screen. You don't let just anyone scroll through your messages or photos. Why? Because those things are personal, protected, private. You control access. But now think, you guard your phone more than your peace. You protect your screen more than your spirit. You require a password for a gadget, but no standards for your relationships. Access should be earned. You see, value is always attached to rarity. Diamonds are not found on the surface. They're buried deep and mined with effort. High security vaults are not opened with a knock. They require codes, identification clearance. Why? Because what's inside is precious. If what you carry is valuable, why is it so easy for people to get to you? Let's go even deeper. Some of the stress you're feeling right now has nothing to do with your workload and everything to do with your accessibility. People call you with problems and you listen. They text you at midnight and you respond. They show up uninvited and you make room. Not because you want to, but because you don't want to disappoint. But listen carefully. Every time you say yes to someone who hasn't earned it, you say no to the version of you who needs rest, who needs clarity, who needs space to evolve. Even in business, there's a principle: exclusivity increases demand. That's why luxury brands don't sell everywhere. That's why high-end clubs require membership. That's why private coaching costs more than group sessions. Access increases when standards are raised. If you want to be treated with value, start setting standards. People rise or fall based on what you allow. And don't get it twisted. Boundaries don't push the right people away. They filter the wrong ones out. If someone gets offended because you no longer make yourself constantly available, that's not a loss. That's clarity. That's revelation. That's pruning. Let me give you a real-life example. There was a woman who always found herself drained. She was everyone's emotional dumping ground. Friends called her only when they had problems. Family expected her to fix everything. Co-workers leaned on her but never poured back. One day she decided to stop answering calls after 9 p.m. She stopped replying to texts that only came when someone needed something. At first, people were angry. Some stopped calling. Others distanced themselves. But slowly, she realized something. The ones who valued her stayed. The ones who used her left. And for the first time in years, she felt peace. Why? Because she realized that access isn't kindness. Access is responsibility. You don't need to be rude to protect your space. You just need to be clear. Let people earn the right to know you. Let them earn the right to hear your thoughts, to sit at your table, to walk through your heart. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-abandonment. You were not created to be convenience for people who refuse to grow. You were not designed to be an open door to anyone who knocks. Let them knock. Let them wait. Let them wonder. Because when you stop giving yourself so easily, you start discovering who really sees your worth. There are people who come close only to consume. There are people who smile but have no intention of building. There are people who applaud you publicly but drain you privately. Without standards, you invite confusion. Without boundaries, you become a target. And the worst part, the people you allow easy access to will begin to believe that access is their right, not your decision. The world won't give you space. You have to claim it. People won't respect your boundaries until you enforce them. No one will value your presence until you stop making it so common. When you treat yourself like a treasure, others will start doing the same. But until then, you will continue to feel undervalued, overlooked, and overwhelmed. Access should always cost something: time, trust, loyalty, effort, respect. Because anything that's given without requirement will eventually be received without appreciation. Stop apologizing for protecting your peace, because peace isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's not a bonus you get at the end of a perfect day. It's the foundation you need just to function. And yet, so many people feel guilty for choosing silence over chaos, solitude over noise, calm over confrontation. But let me say this clearly: if you don't protect your peace, you will lose your power. There are people who will guilt trip you the moment you decide to protect your space. They'll call you selfish. They'll say you've changed. They'll accuse you of being distant. And you know what? They're right. You did change. You changed from being drained to being decisive. You changed from being overwhelmed to being intentional. You changed from being constantly available to being consciously aligned. Let me give you an image. Imagine you're holding a glass of clean, cold water. That water represents your peace. It's clear, refreshing, pure. But then someone walks by and drops a spoonful of mud in it. Then another person comes, adds a few drops of ink. A third sprinkles sand. Eventually, you're no longer holding peace. You're holding a polluted mess. That's what happens every time you let someone bring drama, gossip, toxicity, or stress into your mental space. And you stand there apologizing because you walked away from them to protect the clarity you fought to find. No more. Peace is not passive. It's a product of powerful decisions. It's saying no when your body is tired. It's leaving conversations that go nowhere. It's unfollowing accounts that make you question your worth. It's letting go of people who only call you when they need something. And here's the catch. People who benefit from your chaos will always be offended by your peace. Think about this when you're trying to sleep and someone keeps making noise who usually apologizes first. You, the one trying to rest. You say, sorry, could you lower your voice? You're the one seeking peace, but you're the one apologizing. That's backwards. Why are the peacemakers the ones always saying sorry? If you need a mental health day, take it unapologetically. If you don't want to answer your phone, don't. If you don't feel like engaging, don't. Protecting your peace is not being anti-social, it's being pro-sanity. Let me give you a real example. There's a man who worked in a high-stress corporate job, meetings back to back, phone ringing nonstop, expectations piled high. He used to say yes to everything, every dinner, every event, every call, until one day his health cracked, chest pains, high blood pressure, constant fatigue. His doctor didn't give him more medicine. He gave him a new mindset. He said, you need peace more than performance. So the man started saying no. He took long walks in the morning. He stopped answering emails after 7 p.m. He limited social media. He created mental borders around his peace. And guess what? He started thriving, not just surviving. But people began whispering, he's changed. He's cold. He's not like he used to be. And you know what he said? I'd rather be misunderstood than mistreated. I'd rather lose approval than lose myself. You've got to stop explaining your boundaries to people who don't respect them. Peace is not up for discussion. Either they honor it or they exit, period. Every day your mind is being pulled in 10 directions. News headlines, social drama, demands from work, family expectations, personal pressure. If you don't create intentional silence, you'll live in unintentional stress. And stress isn't just an emotional state, it's a thief. It steals your joy, your focus, your creativity, your presence. And listen, you don't need chaos to feel productive. You don't need to be constantly busy to prove your value. Sometimes the most productive thing you can do is sit still and protect your peace like it's gold, because it is. There are people who won't understand why you disappear sometimes, why you choose peace over participation, why you don't comment on every issue, why you don't answer every call. That's fine. They don't have to understand it because your peace doesn't require permission, only protection. Some of you need to delete the apology from your vocabulary. Stop saying, sorry, I just needed a moment to myself. Replace it with, thank you for understanding I needed time to breathe. That small shift changes everything. You are not wrong for choosing peace. You are wise. You are powerful. You are intentional. It's not selfish to put your mental health first. It's strategic. It's not rude to walk away from drama. It's maturity. It's not cold to stop entertaining every crisis. It's called clarity. You don't need to be a hero in every storm. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is build a shelter and sit in peace while the world demands your panic. And don't let this world trick you. Peace is not weakness. It takes strength to stay calm when everything around you is shaking. It takes wisdom to walk away when your pride wants to fight. It takes discipline to stay still when chaos wants to pull you in. So the next time you feel guilty for protecting your peace, ask yourself, who benefits when I lose it? Because those who truly care about you will protect your peace with you. Those who don't, well, they were never for you in the first place. High-value people are not always available, and that's not arrogance. That's awareness. They understand the weight of their presence. They don't just show up anywhere, anytime, for anyone. Why? Because they know something most people ignore. Access is influence. And when you're always available, you're rarely valued. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine there's a luxury brand, a high-end watch, handcrafted with precision, limited edition, only 100 pieces in the world. Do you ever see it sitting on every store shelf? Of course not. It's reserved, protected, displayed behind glass. Not because it's better than everything else, but because it knows what it carries. Now, imagine a cheap plastic watch sold at every gas station, tossed in bins, sold for $4.99. It's always available and rarely appreciated. Why? Because abundance breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds disrespect. You're not for everybody. And you were never meant to be. High-value individuals understand that being present everywhere is the quickest way to be respected nowhere. They choose where to be, when to be there, and why. They don't rush into every conversation. They don't reply to every message instantly. They don't say, yes, just to be liked. They protect their time like royalty protects their crown, because not everyone deserves to touch it. You see, when you're constantly available, people start assuming your time is disposable. They think, oh, he'll answer. She's always free. They'll show up. And the moment you don't, they feel offended. But it's not because you changed. It's because you stopped being convenient. And convenience, let me tell you, is the death of significance. Look at the people who move the world. Visionaries, leaders, builders, creators. You don't just walk into their space uninvited. You don't get their time by accident. You schedule it, you earn it. You come with purpose, not with noise. Why? Because their time is an investment, not a favor. And it must be the same for you. Let me give you a real life story. There was a young man, incredibly talented, passionate, driven. But he made one mistake. He was available to everyone. Every call he answered, every favor, he showed up. Every request he delivered. At first, people praised him. They said, "You're reliable, you're loyal, you're always there." But over time, he noticed something strange. People started showing up only when they needed something. And when he needed support, silence. That's when he realized being available to everyone is the fastest route to being used by many and remembered by none. He made a shift. He stopped explaining his silence. He became intentional with his energy. He began to guard his presence like treasure. He wasn't rude, just rare. And suddenly, people began treating him differently, with respect, because now his presence had weight. His yes meant something, and his time felt like gold. Some of you reading this have been trained to believe that saying no means you're not kind. That setting boundaries makes you cold. But listen, high-value people are not cold. They're clear. They're clear about their purpose, their time, their focus, their peace. They don't move out of guilt. They move out of vision. And that clarity scares people who are used to having easy access to your light. Let's get brutally honest. When was the last time you said yes out of fear, fear of losing a connection, fear of looking selfish, fear of not being liked? How many times have you been in rooms you didn't want to be in, conversations you didn't care about, relationships that drained you, all because you were too available? You see, value increases when access decreases. That's why celebrities don't just walk around in public all day. That's why CEOs don't answer every call. That's why elite athletes train in silence. Because if they were everywhere, they'd be average. And you're not average, you're an asset. Don't get caught in the trap of overexposure. The more they see you without intention, the less they feel you with impact. Stop showing up to prove you care. Start showing up because you carry purpose. Carry focus, carry weight. High-value people are not hiding, they're reserving. They're not ignoring, they're prioritizing, and they're not selfish, they're strategic. Even nature teaches this. The sun doesn't shine 24 hours a day. It rises with power, shines with purpose, and sets with grace. And because it's not always visible, we respect its arrival. We prepare for its light. We position ourselves to receive it. Imagine if you did the same, if you showed up not constantly, but intentionally. What would happen? People would lean in, listen differently, honor your presence, respect your boundaries. This is the truth most people don't want to admit. Availability is not the same as loyalty. Presence is not the same as purpose. Attention is not the same as alignment. And when you confuse them, you lose yourself. So don't be afraid to pull back. Don't be afraid to protect your hours. Don't be afraid to be rare, because the more rare you are, the more real you become to the ones who truly matter. Constant access creates casual relationships. Constant access creates casual relationships. That's a truth many people don't want to hear because it confronts the way we've been trained to think about connection. We've been taught that being constantly available means we're being loyal, supportive, and dependable. But in reality, what you make too available, people start to take for granted. It's not your heart they stop respecting, it's your boundaries. And when boundaries are blurred, relationships become blurred. There's a silent danger in always being accessible. You think you're building closeness when in fact you're building complacency. When people can reach you anytime, anywhere, without reason, they stop valuing the moment they're with you. When your yes is always guaranteed, your presence becomes a background sound, comforting, but no longer commanding. And you wonder why the energy is one-sided, why they don't check on you unless they need something, why your phone only rings when it benefits them. It's because they got used to the version of you that never had limits, and now that version feels ordinary. Let's make this real. Think about your favorite song. The one you can't stop playing. You love it because it hits something inside of you. But imagine playing it on repeat all day, every day. Eventually, no matter how beautiful it is, the song fades into noise. Familiarity diluted its power. The melody didn't change. Your appreciation did. That's what constant access does. It turns what once felt meaningful into something mundane. You become background music in people's lives instead of the main event, and your presence starts to carry less impact. You see, human nature doesn't value what's always available. That's why exclusivity holds weight. Scarcity increases desire. When something is rare, people lean in. When something is common, they scroll past. This applies to people just like it applies to brands, art, opportunities. When you allow yourself to be everywhere, all the time, to everyone, you lose the power of your presence. And let's be honest, if people never have to earn your time, they will never respect your time. There's a difference between being kind and being easy to reach. There's a difference between love and availability. Some people love you only as long as you're convenient. But the moment you step back, the moment you delay that response, take that time for yourself, choose not to engage, suddenly you're distant, cold, difficult. But you're not difficult, you're finally intentional. Imagine a manager who leaves their office door open 24/7. Every complaint, every distraction, every problem walks in unfiltered. What happens? Their focus drops, their creativity dies, their leadership weakens, not because they're incapable, but because they've allowed every voice to become their priority. Now compare that to a leader who says, book a time, bring solutions, not problems. My door is open, but with purpose. That's not ego, that's order. And relationships need the same kind of structure. You're not a vending machine. People shouldn't be able to press a few buttons and get a piece of you. Your soul is not for casual consumption. Your mind, your time, your energy, these are sacred currencies. And when you give them out freely to anyone at any time without purpose, you devalue what you carry. You allow casual relationships to form simply because you've been too accessible. Let me give you a real example. There was a young woman who had a huge heart. She was the go-to for everyone. Her phone never stopped ringing. Friends vented to her, family leaned on her, coworkers needed her advice constantly. She thought she was helping. She thought being there all the time was building connection. But slowly, she began to feel used, tired, empty. One day, she stopped replying instantly. She started creating space. A day went by, 2, a week. And she noticed something. Some people stopped reaching out altogether, not because they were hurt, but because they weren't interested in her as a person. They were interested in the service she provided. They were in casual relationship with someone who gave constant access. And when the access ended, so did the illusion of closeness. That was her breakthrough. She realized she wasn't losing people. She was losing distractions. And in their place, something more powerful was forming: clarity. True relationships don't rely on constant access. They thrive on mutual respect, on understanding, on intentional connection, not convenience. So ask yourself, are people connected to your essence or just your accessibility? Do they want your heart or just the help it provides? Because when you step back and set boundaries, the truth comes out. You find out who really honors your space. You find out who values the quality of your presence, not just the frequency of it. You've got to stop mistaking attention for connection. Just because someone contacts you often doesn't mean they care deeply. Just because someone texts you daily doesn't mean they know your soul. Constant communication does not mean meaningful relationship. In fact, sometimes the most meaningful relationships are the ones with pauses in between, but the respect never wavers. You weren't created to be on call like a customer service line. You're not meant to be everybody's emergency plan. If someone only treats you with value when they need something, that's not a relationship, that's a transaction. And every transaction depletes what you never took time to refill. Make your time matter. Make your voice matter. Make your silence powerful. Because when people have to wait for your presence, they appreciate it more. When they have to be intentional to access you, they engage with more purpose. Constant access creates casual relationships, but intentional presence creates powerful ones. And that's the kind of connection worth protecting. Your destiny requires focus, and focus requires boundaries. Your destiny requires focus, and focus requires boundaries. That's not just a motivational quote, that's a life law. Every dream you carry, every vision you've been given, every assignment you were born to complete, it all demands a level of concentration the average mind cannot maintain without discipline. And discipline is born out of boundaries. If your life is a garden, your focus is the soil, but boundaries, they are the fence. Without that fence, anything can walk in: weeds, distractions, unnecessary conversations, toxic voices, meaningless drama, and the worst one of all, comfort disguised as commitment. You were not created to entertain every voice, respond to every ping, or attend every invitation. Focus is a sacred force. It doesn't scream, it whispers. And if you don't protect it, the noise of the world will drown out the sound of your calling. Every text you answer out of guilt, every meeting you accept without purpose, every favor you agree to just to keep someone happy, that's a drop of water on the fire of your destiny. It doesn't seem like much at first, but slowly that flame dims. Not because you lack the spark, but because you gave your fuel to everything except your future. Let me show you how this works in real life. Have you ever tried to read a book in a room full of loud conversations? You may look like you're reading. Pages may be turning, but your brain is bouncing between every background voice. You retain nothing. It's the illusion of focus with the reality of distraction. That's how most people live their lives. They move, they speak, they produce, but they're not aligned. They're not focused. Why? Because they refuse to build boundaries. And here's the truth: if you don't build boundaries, people will build them for you, and you won't like where they place them. They'll put you in the category of always available. They'll figure it out. They won't mind. They're strong, but strength doesn't mean surrender. Being capable doesn't mean being accessible, and being gifted doesn't mean being everyone's go-to. The more valuable your vision, the more ruthless you must be about protecting your focus. Think of the greatest athletes, performers, leaders. They train in silence. They master the art of saying no, not because they're antisocial, but because they know success requires solitude. Focus is lonely, but it's not empty. It's filled with purpose, clarity, preparation, intention. They don't wake up and hope to be productive. They design their environment to demand productivity. That's focus through boundaries. You can't be available to every distraction and still expect divine direction. That's not how destiny works. You've got to choose your feelings or your future, because many times you'll feel like scrolling, you'll feel like gossiping, you'll feel like people pleasing. But destiny doesn't care how you feel. It responds to what you focus on. Let me tell you about a young man with a vision to build a business. He had the talent, he had the tools, but he didn't have the boundaries. He tried to juggle it all. Late night calls from friends, weekend parties, constant notifications. Every time he sat to plan, something urgent pulled his attention. Weeks passed, then months, still no progress. One day, a mentor sat him down and said, "You don't need a better idea. You need a better schedule. You need to decide who gets your time and who only gets your prayers." That conversation changed everything. He started blocking his mornings for deep work. He muted his phone for hours. He declined invites without guilt. And slowly, his dream began to breathe. Not because his talent increased, but because his focus did. His destiny was never the issue. His distractions were. And some of you are in that exact space right now. You've got the fire. You've got the ability. But your focus is leaking through cracks you refuse to seal. Every time you say yes to what doesn't align, you're saying no to what does. Every hour lost to meaningless scrolling is an hour stolen from mastery. Every moment spent explaining your boundaries is a moment not spent building your legacy. You don't owe everyone an explanation for your focus. Let your results do the talking. People may call you distant. Let them. They may say you've changed. Let them. They may not understand why you disappeared from the crowd. That's okay. The eagle doesn't explain why it left the chicken coop. It just flies higher. And some of you need to do just that, not with noise, not with drama, but with focus. Protect your mornings. Guard your mental energy. Say no without guilt. Disconnect to reconnect, not with others, but with yourself, because your destiny is not waiting on more motivation. It's waiting on your commitment to focus. And focus only lives where boundaries are built. You are not here to be ordinary. You are not here to be available on demand like a vending machine for people's convenience. You are here to do something extraordinary, and extraordinary things are never born in noisy places. They are born in the quiet, in the intentional, in the focused. They are born when you stop allowing people to pull you in every direction and finally decide to rise in your own. You've spent too many years trying to be everything to everyone and ended up being nothing to yourself. But listen to me, you were not born to blend in. You were born to break patterns. You were not born to be on standby for people who only dial your number when they need something. You were born to lead, to build, to create, to inspire. And that calling is too expensive to waste on cheap conversations and low-value connections. The most powerful people in the world don't give their time away like loose change. They guard it like a vault because they understand this one truth: the most valuable currency you have is not money, it's your attention. Whatever has your attention has your future. So if your attention is being drained by distractions, don't be surprised when your destiny feels delayed. Greatness doesn't grow in places where boundaries don't exist. It grows where vision is protected. It grows in solitude, in discipline, in silence. And that silence is not weakness, it's preparation. Some of you have been asking, why am I not moving forward? Let me be real with you. You're too accessible to things that don't deserve your presence. You're giving your energy to people who don't clap for you. You're showing up for people who never show up for you. You're pouring into places that have already proven they can't hold the weight of who you are becoming. You cannot become legendary while remaining available to mediocrity. Think about it. A lion does not respond to every bark in the jungle. It moves in silence. It strikes with purpose. And when it shows up, everything pays attention. That's how you must move from this moment forward. Don't chase attention. Command it by your absence. Don't force respect. Earn it through restraint. When people don't hear from you every day, they begin to wonder. When you don't show up in every room, they begin to feel your value. Let your silence speak louder than your words ever could. Time is not promised. Energy is not unlimited. You've got to become more selfish with your purpose, not arrogant, aligned. You've got to stop entertaining conversations that keep you stuck. You've got to stop explaining your boundaries to people who benefit from your lack of them. Because the version of you that is always available is not the version that's going to take you to your next level. You've got to transform, and transformation demands separation. Yes, people will talk. Let them talk. That's proof you're making moves. That's proof you're no longer predictable. And unpredictable people shift atmospheres. When you stop being easy to reach, you become impossible to ignore. Don't fear being misunderstood. Fear staying in rooms where you're always understood but never challenged. Growth doesn't come through comfort. It comes through conviction. Listen to me. There's a lion in you. There's a legend in you. There's a voice in you that's been quiet for too long because you've been too available to noise that never deserved you. It's time to stop answering every call. It's time to stop sitting at every table. It's time to stop giving front row access to people who should only be in the balcony. Protect your time. Guard your greatness. Not everyone deserves access to your energy because your energy was made to move nations, not just conversations. From this day forward, stop being available to everyone and start being accountable to your purpose. The world doesn't need more people pleasers. It needs more purpose walkers. You were not created to be remembered for how reachable you were, but for how unshakable you became when you chose your destiny over their demands. That's where your legacy begins.